Hey everyone. Hope you are having an awesome beginning to your weekends here on Friday evening. I'm just noticing that my hair is like a little weird. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I've noticed that my hair, like on this side it tucks under and this side it kind of goes like this naturally, like a wave. And I noticed that sometimes guys on like their collars, like when there's a collared shirt, it will do the same thing. Like they'll both curve in the same direction. And I'm wondering if that's somehow like an energetic thing with the body. But I was just noticing like I didn't style my hair today, so it's just kind of crazy today. But I'm also growing my bangs out, so I'm having to figure out new things to do with my hair right now. So anyway, I wanted to hop on here and talk about my latest newsletter that I sent out. As y'all know, I send out a bi-weekly newsletter and I talk about conscious leadership, the future of work, building remote teams. I really just want to see people work happy, live happy, be happy. And so that's what all of my coaching and my writing is about. And so I sent out my latest newsletter this morning. And the title of it was Changing Plans. And it's something that I have been reflecting on this week, is about how all of us have had to change our plans this year. Because of the pandemic that really hit the US in March. You know, all of us started out 2020, big year. We're all gonna have New Year's resolutions and we have all these big plans for work, all these things that we were going to change and do differently or really make this an awesome year. And then the world kind of turned upside down for most of us or for pretty much the whole world. And I was actually looking back at my original 2020 calendar of all my plans I had made for the year. And in the last few months, since all of this started, I would have gone to San Antonio, to Salt Lake City, Washington, D.C., New York City, Atlanta. I was scheduled to go to a lot of different places for work, and obviously those plans changed. And this is just one of those years where we are having to really reevaluate, and even the best laid plans can change. And I was contemplating this quote from Joseph Campbell this week, where he says that we must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And it's a little sad. I understand what Joseph Campbell's saying there. I was supposed to be in Sundance, Utah this week to facilitate a retreat. And I would love to be in Sundance right now. But things change, and I am going to try out some new stuff this week. I'm going to facilitate virtually. And so I get to try out some new things, and some of the things I'm going to do are going to be a wild success, and I'll be super excited to use new technology and try out new things. Other things might not go so well, but that's just a lesson learned. And so we're going to see how this goes. Hey, Lance, I see you said hi. Hope you're doing well out there in Sacramento, California. So also, I just we're kind of in June now, we're hitting middle of the year, and this has been like a roller coaster of a year for all of us. Besides the pandemic, there's been all sorts of other stuff going on. There's just been a really different kind of year. And so my question that I'm asking leaders, people who want to raise their consciousness and be better leaders in the workplace or in their life, is what are you learning about yourself this year? And how are you adapting? And what do you want to be your biggest takeaway from 2020? And also, what do you want to be able to say was your biggest area of growth for this year? These are all questions that a coach would ask to really get people thinking and contemplating about not just looking at what is, but what is the potential out there. And I don't know if y'all can hear it, but there's someone who is like cutting down a tree next door. They just pulled out their chainsaw. So if you're hearing any noise in the background, our neighbor is literally cutting down a tree next door. So apparently big changes for their tree next door for 2020 is cutting down the tree. Anyway, wanted to get into some of the things that I talk about also. As y'all know, on my Friday newsletter, besides kind of sharing what I've been thinking about for the week, I also share some of my favorite content. As y'all know, I love thinking about these things and talking about what the future of work, conscious leadership, remote work, all this kind of stuff. What does great leadership look like going into the future of work? And so I always share some of the things that I've read and I've appreciated during the week. And this week, I actually had someone reach out to me via my website. It's a company called TopTall. I think that's how you say it. And their representative shared with me this suddenly remote playbook they put together. And apparently they are a company that's been around for over a decade, and they help provide talent for remote teams. So if you need an engineer or a software person, they can help you build out that kind of a team. And so they saw what I was doing with my work and said, hey, would you share with all of your followers what we're doing? And so I said, sure. So I included a link to the playbook. I haven't read through the whole thing, but I did skim it and it looks really good. So you can go to my Substacks. It's meredithattorney.substack.com. And you can click on the link there and check out that playbook. It may give you some good tips on how to manage a remote team. And I always say that a lot of the tips that you find on managing a remote team can also parlay over back if you have a hybrid team that's part remote or part in office, or even solely in an office. A lot of these same principles of conscious leadership apply to all the different platforms. Something else that I talk about in the newsletter today was National Public Radio, NPR, actually had a segment on their program this week that was about getting a comfortable chair because permanent remote work or working from home is here to stay. And as y'all know, they do like their audio version, but then they also have like a written version of their reports. And so they talk a lot about how this is a trend that we are going to see, which was something I was advocating for before all this started, but I think they're right. We are going to continue to see this moving forward. One interesting thing that I'd be curious to hear what y'all think about is with so many people working from home now, what's going to happen to all the office space out there? Because there's going to be half empty buildings and downtowns. Like, are they going to turn into apartments? I'd be really curious to hear what you think about what is going to happen to real estate and even the cost of living in some of these city centers that were so expensive because it was closer to where people usually work. But now that people are finding they can work remotely, we're going to see some changes. So who knows what that's going to mean for real estate and cost of living, things like that. So I'd be curious to hear what you think about that. You can always send me a note to my website, meredithattorney.com, or you can even comment on this post when I post it on my Instagram here or my Facebook or LinkedIn. I usually post the videos on my different platforms. Another interesting article, the New York Times, they've been actually doing a lot of work or a lot of content on remote work. And they had an excellent article this week on some tips to succeed when you're working from home. And they interviewed several managers and what are you doing to shift your team into a remote setting and find success. And one of the things that one manager said they were doing was repurposing teams. So a team that ordinarily might go out to trade shows and be on the road all the time representing your company and getting sales, they're repurposing them and finding ways that they can do stuff remotely. So they're not letting those employees go, but they're finding new ways that they can do their job, which is great. I mean, because anytime we have a crisis or things are changing, it's a great time for innovation and trying out new things. They also, when one manager talked about rotating responsibilities, which is fantastic. So for example, if you're having like a weekly team call via Zoom or whatever platform you're using, why not have a team member share the responsibility of leading one week or taking the notes or planning the agenda, and really getting different people the chance to try out different roles and different responsibilities, which I'm a huge advocate for because as y'all know, I believe that we are going to see more of a flattening of hierarchical structures in the future of work, and everyone will get the chance to try leadership and try out different roles. So the New York Times had some interesting stuff to say about that in that article. And once again, you can find that on my newsletter. It's meredithattorney.substack.com. Also, another interesting article I came across was the Houston Chronicle. Houston's my hometown. It's where I was born. Spent the first 11 years of my life. Houston Chronicle had an article this week about how we're going to see increased airfare prices moving forward because I don't know if y'all know this, but the reason that we do have a lot of cheaper airfare in coach class is because the people at the front of the plane, like in business class and first class, subsidize a lot of the costs of the entire flight because they're paying $2,000 or something like that for their first class seat, and so that makes it cheaper for those in coach class to get cheaper airfare. And so this Houston Chronicle article was saying we're probably going to see a 25% decrease in corporate air travel. Because first of all, people don't want to travel because of the pandemic. They don't want to be in an enclosed tube in the air with people, no matter how much precautions are taken. But also a lot of companies are going to have to cut back on their expenses, which includes travel. And also people are seeing that they can do a lot of stuff remotely, like meetings that they in the past would have quickly jumped on a flight. Maybe they can do that from the comfort of their living room. So we're going to see a decrease in corporate travel, which means there could be an increase in overall airfare costs. That's just something that could also affect our economy. So it's something I like to talk to leaders about, is how are you structuring your team so you can still have positive remote meetings, have great team collaboration, and build a really strong team, build up your team members without always having to jump on an airplane. And I've been on a remote team for 9 years. So we've learned lots of different ways. I think the right approach is somewhat of a hybrid. You can have a fully distributed team, but you can also, I think there's a good mix of maybe once a year getting together with your team and having some in-person meetings, because there really isn't anything like getting together in person, looking at someone and sharing their space and their energy. But moving forward, we're definitely going to see a change. And so the Houston Chronicle was just sharing some of this information about how things are shifting, especially in airfare. And then the last thing that I talk about in the newsletter this week is the power of intuition. This is something that I want to get into more deeply in a future newsletter and videos. But one of the things that I'm a big fan of Vishen Lakhiani. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's one of the co-founders of Mind Valley, which is a personal growth company. And they bring some of the greatest thought leaders and teachers from around the world on personal growth and development. And I was fortunate enough to meet him and go to one of his conferences about 2 years ago. Actually, it was a fabulous event. Fantabulous, I guess that's a word. It was a great event that I went to with him. Met some amazing people from around the globe. And his whole mission is to be the top educational company in the world that doesn't just look at like science and math and history and language, but how do you develop a whole person holistically? And one of the things that Vishen believes is the future of work is getting more into intuition. So how do you tap into intuition? Well, it's a lot about meditation, really going inward and listening to yourself and not all the programs and thoughts that come to you through the media and all these different things. And so I included a link to an article from Jack Canfield, who wrote the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. There's like a whole series of books that he did. I think he was also in the documentary series The Secret. So he's all about the law of attraction and things like that. And so I included an article from him where he talks about some of his tips for increasing your intuition. And I do think that moving forward, we are going to see, and Vishen agrees too, that we are going to see this more as a skill set that the top leaders of the world learn how to utilize. It's not just all going to be based on data and statistics, which are important. It's good to get that feedback. We need that kind of stuff. But I think we are going to see more of intuition, like listening to yourself, setting aside a lot of the busyness of the day. I mean, this is how some of the greatest inventors in history, like Tesla and Edison, these guys knew how to get into really deep states of meditation, and all of a sudden these amazing ideas would come to them and they transform the world. And so the more we can listen to our intuition and not see it as kind of like this woo-woo spiritual world, like Eastern medicine type thing, but really see it as it is a huge part of who we are. We all follow intuition every day. We just don't realize it, perhaps. But the more that we can bring that into our workplace, we could see some really incredible things happening in the workplace. So you might want to check out that article I included from Jack Canfield. And as I said, it's something that I will probably do a whole newsletter on at some point in the future and a whole video in the future, because I do think that it's something that is very important to develop your intuition. So that's my newsletter that I sent out on Fridays. I always send out kind of a summary of all the cool conscious leadership and remote work and team building and all the kind of stuff that I've been reading, because I am just a voracious reader when it comes to this stuff. I get all sorts of newsletters and I'm reading articles, and I love just consuming all this information and thinking about it and then sharing it with y'all. I kind of see myself as like a curator of some of this stuff on conscious leadership. But for those of you who are an employee or someone who's new to your career and you're looking for someone to work with because you want to develop your conscious leadership or figure out your career path, how can you really build a career that's going to fulfill you, and that it's more about a mission than just a job. I would love to talk to you. I do a lot of that in my coaching. I love talking to young people who are trying to figure out their career path and where they're going. If you're a leader of a corporation or nonprofit, an organization, I love talking to leaders about how they are developing their own conscious leadership and how they can develop an amazing team, whether it's remotely or hybrid or in person. I love talking to leaders about that and doing coaching and doing training. And something I do want to launch soon is doing some mastermind groups. And these are small groups where you can come together with other professionals and talk about your conscious leadership growth. What are your plans? Get some coaching from me and some accountability, because that is an important part of coaching, is the accountability part. But I'm going to be launching those soon, so I'll keep you all posted once I start launching those. But it's an amazing way to really accelerate your growth in your career by doing something like a mastermind. If you can't do one-on-one coaching, group coaching can be an awesome alternative, and also just to get that shared synergistic energy that goes on when you're collaborating with other really impressive people who also want to up their level of their career and their consciousness. So I'll keep you all posted about that. But I just wanted to share about my latest newsletter, and I'll be back soon to talk more about the coaching I'm doing, the trainings and the conscious leadership and remote work and team building and all that kind of stuff. But I wish y'all an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for joining me live. For those of you who are watching this later, feel free to reach out to me on my website, meredithattorney.com. There's a Contact Meredith tab. You can email me directly, or you can go to my Substack and sign up for my newsletter. But I would love to talk to you more about these topics, and I do wish y'all an amazing weekend. And I hope that you will work happy, live happy, be happy. Bye.